Hey gang, I'm Jim Zub. I'm a professional comic book writer, and it's been a while since I've posted up a new video. Honestly, almost a year since I've done a new comic making tutorial video, and that's for the best of reasons because I've honestly been really crazy busy working on all kinds of different projects. Since the last time I posted up a new video, man, oh man, I have announced a whole bunch of different projects. Thunderbolts is launching from Marvel. I did a Life of Wolverine digital comic book series. I wrapped up my run on Conan the Barbarian and then was announced as the new writer of Conan the Barbarian, relaunching at Titan in 2023. I'm doing more D&D comic book work. I've also got all kinds of amazing kind of stuff in the hopper, including the project that I'm going to talk about today in this particular video. As exciting as it is to launch a brand new project, there's also a weird thing that happens when you wrap one up. Um, Whatever circumstances those are under, whether or not it ended prematurely or whether or not it ended exactly the way that you wanted it to, people will ask if you have more story ideas. They'll ask if you have other things you wanted to do or other characters you wanted to include in the cast. And it comes from a really good place, their excitement. It comes from their excitement for what you've done. It comes from their excitement to see if there's the possibility of a sequel or a prequel or just more material in those worlds that you're contributing to. But I've always been really kind of cagey. I maybe not cagey is the right word, kind of holding my cards close to my chest when it comes to these things. I have never ever talked about failed pitches. I have never talked specifically about my story and plot ideas for series where I left early or things I didn't get to do. There's multiple reasons for that, and I kind of want to talk about it here and now with a very specific example that has come out of a very recent project announcement. So I understand the impetus around talking about a project that could have been, and the frustration that comes from not being able to do the thing that you wanted to do, or pitching a really cool idea, something that you've been passionate about and you really want to have happen, and then it doesn't come about. I totally understand that kind of buildup of creative energy and then that feeling that it's dissipating without the actual kind of explosive payoff that you want. It's a really natural kind of thing. You've put your time and effort into it. These creative projects, they're not just about writing words down on a screen and sending an email away. It's you package some of yourself in those things too. You put yourself into it and you put that effort into the pitching process. So when it doesn't come about, when it gets rejected, sometimes when you don't even get an answer from a publisher at all, it can be really frustrating. It can sort of sit in your stomach, really heavy and make you wonder why you do these things at all. When you've had the chance to contribute to a series and you've had the chance to sort of build things out and it doesn't go the way you want, again, that frustrated feeling of, oh man, we had such cool ideas. We had so many big plans. And then they all just kind of went, fallow and it doesn't end up coming about. I get it. I get the desire to want to brag, to want to talk, to want to say, look, this is all the stuff we were supposed to do. These are all the plans that we were supposed to have. These are all the characters that were supposed to appear and these villains and these amazing twists and turns. And I get it because you want to get that stuff out there. You want to impress upon people that you had these big ideas, that they were worth pursuing. But wherever possible, I try not to talk about this stuff. I try not to get specific in particular. I will tell people, yes, of course, when I was working on Conan the Barbarian at Marvel, my hope was to continue the series past issue 25. When I was working on Champions and we had a relaunch in the middle, the plan was to continue on for several years, and the series ended up getting cut short at issue 10. I had big long-term plans for the series, and some of those things ended up working their way into those 10 issues, but not the way that I had hoped, and not through any lack of effort from our creative team. There were a lot of different factors that were going on. But no matter how difficult that situation is, or no matter how much kind of unspent energy has gone into it, I don't talk about what I would have done. I don't think it's fair to the creative team, that comes later that has to work on those characters. I feel like it's a real disservice to them in particular, because now their current work or whatever they're planning to do is being compared against a dream, against, a best case scenario where I tell you how amazing this thing would have been in snappy little sound bites, and what characters we would have used, and all the cool payoffs that would have happened. And I don't have to actually execute on any of it. All I can do is tell you it would have been amazing. And if you're a fan of my work, you believe me. And now the next creative team, the writers and the artists, they're being compared against a fantasy. They're being compared against things that have not come about. They're being asked about plot lines and payoffs that they had no part in creating in the first place. Equally, I think it's very, very important that if you have pitched an idea and you feel that it's a really great one, even if it doesn't come to pass, don't, publicly blow your horn off about it. Don't talk publicly about what you would have done. Don't, scream from the mountaintops that you've been, whatever, mistreated and lost this opportunity, because you honestly never know how this stuff is going to come around. You never know when you're going to be able to use some of that material again, or under a different editorial regime or just time passing, you may get the chance to pitch something again. And that in particular is something I want to talk about with a very specific example, essentially my go-to example now. Just a couple of days ago, Marvel announced the fact that Ray Fox and I are co-writing a series called Murder World. It's going to be a series of 5 one-shots that all connect together to tell one really cool story. And it is honestly feels almost like the one that got away, but now it's back in play in a way that I never, ever would have imagined could have happened. How old is this pitch? Would you believe that Ray and I originally pitched this concept to Marvel back in 2004? So this literally 2 previous editors in chief. So this story was originally pitched to Joe Quesada, under completely different circumstances. At the time, I was working at the Udon studio, and although I was working as an artist and a project manager, my deep desire was to be a comic book writer someday. And so when Eric mentioned to me that, if I had cool ideas, let him know, he had sort of a through line to Joe Quesada, the editor-in-chief of Marvel. I really wanted to make stuff happen. I really wanted to prove that I could write some cool stories, and was aware enough that I wasn't going to be able to be put on some A-list character, not even a B-list character. I had no professional writing credits whatsoever. But the kinds of stuff that Udon was doing at that point, they were doing kind of these funky side little series, things like Agent X. They were doing another series called Sentinel. These were like kind of unexpected little twists and turns on Marvel concepts. And so I was talking to my friend Ray, and he had some professional writing credits. He had done some of his own indie comic stuff. I had done my own webcomic stuff, and we were sort of chatting about the possibilities. What would you pitch to Marvel that would seem realistic at that level of skill or at that experience level? How could you surprise them with something a little bit different? And we ended up coming up with this cool kind of survival thriller concept that we called Murder World. And very much in this kind of battle royale style, but using the colorful concepts of, Arcade's Murder World and all the classic sort of elements that we loved about the game show kind of arcade pinball kind of crazy stuff that you can do in Murder World, but taking it with a very serious edge, killing off, these characters that we would introduce, and building up some really crazy and amazing stakes and secrets and mysteries that would be revealed over the course of this miniseries. I put together the proposal with Ray. We got a piece of art done by, I believe, Chris Stevens did a quick sketch that we attached to it, and it got emailed along to Joe Quesada. He ended up giving feedback that was essentially like, yeah, this is kind of cool, but who are these people and what have they done before? And the reality was, both Ray and I, we didn't have enough, work under our belts. We hadn't proven that we were ready to be published by Marvel. As good as some of those ideas were, a lot of it was, kind of the sizzle without the steak. We had not proven that we could really make this thing function. And when we tell you something is going to be exciting or visceral or unexpected, we were trusting in what we're putting on the page, but we've never done that in any other form. We've never shown you these guys can write amazing action. These guys do really cool characterization. We're just sort of injecting those words into the pitch without any proof of concept as far as that goes. It was nice feedback. It was, nice to hear that there was some kind of germ of something cool that was possible, but it wasn't going to happen. And so, 2004, this thing gets thrown in the old digital drawer, and I don't really, worry about it. I've got other things that I'm working away on. I will slowly but surely end up building up more writing credits over the course of the years to come. By the time we get to, 2006, 2007, I'm starting to do more writing stuff. By 2010, I've launched Skull Kickers, and that ends up becoming a real kind of touchstone for me in terms of getting myself out there as a writer. That leads to some of my first work for hire writing work, doing stuff for companies like Dynamite and IDW, eventually Dark Horse, building up to my first DC credits, and then working eventually for Marvel. By the time we get to 2014, my editor at Marvel is a guy named Bill Roseman. He's really amazing. We're just starting to do some projects together, and I remember I've got this idea, I've got this thing I would love to do with Murder World, and I just sort of thinking about, man, wouldn't it be cool? It would be really amazing to pitch this thing. And then I realize that Marvel has Avengers Arena, which is essentially a Murder World style concept. It's like this big battle royale style, crazy deathmatch, arcades at the center of it. There's all kinds of characters who are going to be introduced and killed off. It's not the exact same as our Murder World story, but obviously you've got the same villain. You've got this format, and there's absolutely no way that we're going to be able to get our pitch off the ground. This thing is pretty much dead, and it's just not going to be possible. Flash forward, many years later, I've got a slew of different Marvel credits under my belt. I've got a run on Thunderbolts, Uncanny Avengers. I worked on 2 Avengers Weekly, events, No Surrender and No Road Home. Worked on the Champions, Black Panther and the Agents of Wakanda, all kinds of different series to be able to show, hey, I know what I'm doing. I work well with superheroes. I can play well in the sandbox of the Marvel Universe, all that kinds of stuff. And as we're talking about the relaunched Thunderbolt series that's going to be coming out very soon, we're talking about concepts. We're talking about how these things all kind of fit together. And the conversation that I'm having with the editor-in-chief at now, CB Cebulski, is in and around kind of taking these concepts and being able to pitch them. I'm talking about the Thunderbolts as sort of like Ted Lasso meets the Avengers. It's this real hard on its sleeve kind of superhero concept, and melding in this underdog, kind of character in Clint Barton, leading up this team and trying to make it work. We're talking about it, and there's sort of laughter around, hey, that's a pretty cool, potent little combination. If you've got anything else in that vein, feel free to let us know. At the time, what is the hottest, series on Netflix? It's Squid Game. And so the joke becomes in this broader conversation, hey, let me know if you've got a Squid Game in you, because who knows? The public seems interested in that kind of stuff. And then all of a sudden, the light bulb goes off. Yeah, Marvel has a Squid Game. It's Murder World. And not only is it a cool concept, I have a pitch. I have a pitch that I've been sitting on for ages, and it's one that I would really love to see developed. And so I blow the digital dust off this, ancient pitch. I look at it and I realize, thankfully, I'm a much better writer now than I was then. I'm able to see very specific qualities, what works in terms of the spine of the story, what things were not very well defined or could be, enhanced quite a bit, and give it a rework. And then I send it back in. Ray Fox and I developed this thing together, but I didn't even tell him that I was resending in the pitch, because honestly, it just seemed like a long shot. This old ancient pitch, this old kind of crazy idea pulled out of the woodwork. I'd sent along to CB. He really liked it. He passed it along to Jordan White in the X-Men office, because they tend to deal with Arcade as an X-Men villain. Jordan really likes it. He's also a really big horror fan, and he loves, kind of a lot of stuff in the kind of genres that we were playing on, and kind of some of the ways we were enhancing and pushing, this classic character into some new and more modern spaces. But his plate is full with all the stuff going on in the X-Men office in and around what they call, Krakoa, like all the different X-Men books that are coming in and around there. And so he ended up showing it to a few of the other editors in his area. And Sarah Brunstad, who has been an amazing assistant editor that I've worked with for years, she ended up picking it up and she really liked it. She's a full editor now and was able to get the book green lit. So all told, this pitch is, believe it or not, 18 years old. Ray and I joke that this pitch is old enough to vote. Like it is an old concept that we have ended up refurbishing and rebuilding and are bringing out now. So in November 2022, we're going to be launching the first of a series of 5 one-shots, all branded Murder World. The core of the original story is honestly very similar to that pitch from 18 years ago, but it's more refined, it's better built. We are far better writers now than we ever were then. I had the joy of being able to call my buddy Ray up and say, hey, that thing that we did way back when, it's real, man. It is absolutely happening. And I am 100% certain that it would not have happened if I'd have publicly barked off and said, hey, here's a bunch of stuff that I've pitched over the years. Here's a cool story concept, and here's the twist, and here's how it all fits, so that everyone already knows what it is and why it functions. You never know. I know this is an extreme example, a ridiculous example, a highly unlikely example that will probably never happen in my career again, and doesn't happen to a lot of people. But honestly, you got to, hold this stuff close to your chest. You've got to just wait on things and see if it comes back around. Sometimes concepts get reworked. Sometimes you take a piece of one thing and you combine it with another thing, and all of a sudden you've got a new pitch that you never would have come up with before. But none of that material is useful. None of those ingredients will be valuable to you if you just tell everyone publicly, here's all my ideas, here's everything that's been rejected, this is what I wanted to do. I get it in the moment. I get it as an impetus of frustration or just wishing that you could make it happen by sort of pushing it out into the public square. Like the reading, public is going to shake their fist and go, you got to let them do it. It's such a cool idea. But that's not honestly how this stuff works. It is so unlikely that you're going to drag a publisher or movie people or TV people or video game people or whatever other medium you're kind of working in, that you're going to drag them to some kind of shotgun wedding by making a fan base angry and telling them, let them do the thing. You know what I mean? That's just not how these companies work. That's not how decisions get made. That's not how the finances add up. Having this pitch around didn't cost me anything. Once I made the pitch, it was there, it was available. If I could use pieces from it in another story, great. If not, it just sits in a folder. It sits on my Google Drive there in the archives. And at some crazy point, that graveyard of material, sometimes it can become valuable again. And every so often, some crazy, flash of lightning, whatever, hits the grave, zombie resurrects this thing from the dead and brings it back. And it can be really, really surprising when you get a Frankenstein monster out of this stuff, and you're able to take something that you thought was long gone, that was never going to happen, and you're able to bring it back out into the light. And hopefully, it's a huge hit. Obviously, that's my desire, right? We didn't make this thing, we didn't come up with it because we don't want it to kick ass. We're excited about its potential. We think it's still really fun. We think the core themes and the ideas and the twists still work. And we are incredibly pumped, Ray and I, and really kind of the whole team that is being put together in and around Murder World. They're awesome. And our excitement for it, weirdly enough, is probably greater now than it would have been, back 18 years ago, just because of the unlikely nature of it. It feels like we really kind of squeaked out a victory, from the long gone jaws of defeat. Like this old concept, this dusty thing that I really believed in back in the day. It's back now, and we've kind of refurbished it and we've made it fresh and new. And we are so pumped for what comes next. So there's a lesson to take from any of this. It's make sure that you're recording your ideas, make sure you're getting them down, make sure you're putting them on paper or writing them up on, digitally, and keeping them somewhere safe. You never know what you can use, whether that's a name of a character or a title or a concept or some little bit of plotting or some cool little mystery and revelation. Or in this case, a fully formed kind of mini series that we had sitting in the archives, kind of ready to roll. And in that right moment, that, right place, right time, I got the chance to repitch it again and into a new audience, to a new editorial regime, and grab their attention. And not only do I think the pitch is good, but I also had the credits and the proof, to really create the confidence that this could be something special and that they were willing to invest in it. And that's one of those things that can be really hard to explain to a brand new writer or someone who's trying to break into the business. There's this sense of like, what you want as a creative person, where you're like, oh man, it would be my dream to, whatever, write Wolverine. I want to write the Wolverine solo series. And you're like, okay, cool. That's what you want. That's what you as a writer want. And that's what you, that would enhance your career and it'd be something really cool and you would work really hard on it. But what does Marvel get out of this? Like, other than, the obvious thing of putting your name on the cover and things like that, why you? Why are you the one to do this? Why are you the one that's going to execute on it and going to make it successful, going to make it a sell really well, going to get critical acclaim, going to work really well with the creative team? What proof do they have that you're the right person for the job? If you don't have, prior credits, if you don't have some amazing piece of work, if you don't have some large audience that is eager and willing to put down money for your work, then there's no, there's no underlying reason for this to happen beyond your own desire for it to happen. And that's not how editors make decisions. That's not how these things come about, right? And so, now, like 18 years ago, I was not the guy that could get Murder World made. I did not have enough credits. I did not have enough Marvel credits. I did not have enough credibility as a writer or as a published author to be able to do this stuff. Now in 2022, it's not doing this to sound cocky, but like literally this bookshelf that you see here, this vertical one here, all of these are my books, and it actually continues off camera. So these are all published books that I've done. There's Dungeons and Dragons and, Samurai Jack ones here. This is an entire shelf of just Marvel trades and hardcovers, right? This is more creator-owned stuff. Down here, more fantasy work, and continuing to the bottom shelf as well. Like, I've got over 60 trade paperbacks worth of comic book writing that I've done. When I say, hey, I think this is a really cool idea, it is not a guaranteed bestseller. It is not a world beater, right from the start, but it certainly carries a heck of a lot more credibility if I say, this is a cool story, this mystery is going to really grab people. There's a real, chunk of entertainment that Ray Fox and I can make, and we can carry it through to the finish line. And so now finally, all the pieces, have come into alignment, and we're able to make this cool series. And so, yeah, Murder World, 18 years later. And to me, that just like galvanizes my resolve for holding my cards to my chest, making sure that when I've got good ideas, even if they don't go through the first time, keep them around, keep them close, keep them secret, use them, refurbish them, use those ingredients, and you never know what's going to happen. Whatever that terminology is, like, keep your powder dry and maybe you will get another shot. But stay calm, stay cool. Anything is possible. And even if, in your mind, you think this is the right moment and this has to happen at this moment right now, otherwise my career is over and I will never get the shot again, I'm telling you with 100% certainty, and now even more proof than ever, weird things happen. Stick around, stay the course, make your own work, make it good, keep kicking butt. And at some point in time, the right moment may happen. Times and places will come into alignment, or you may find that you can use that pitch or that element or that core story somewhere else. Nothing gets wasted in a creative journey. You're constantly learning and growing, and constantly finding new ways and new pathways to build your career. So if you found this helpful, I'm thrilled. That's why I do this stuff. I want to supplement the writing tutorials that I already have over on my website, jimzub.com. If you really want to, do a deep dive, you can go into my script archive over on my Patreon page, and there are over 250 scripts there from all kinds of work I've done for almost every major publisher in North America. If you've enjoyed what you see here, the most important thing you can do, honestly, is to pre-order my work. If you think it's cool and this sounds really neat and you want to see what Murder World's all about, it would, thrill me and Ray and everyone else on the creative team if you pre-order Murder World Avengers #1 coming out in November. Make that commitment at your local retailer, and that will enhance our orders. That's going to enhance the print run. That's going to convince them to sell it to the rest of their customer base. And that is honestly the most valuable thing you can do for me as a creator, is show that my work has value and that it's worth putting your money down for ahead of time. So that's the lesson today. Hope you found it useful, and keep writing.